My name's Dave DeBow, and our call tonight is Big Deals, Bigger Benefits, and Biggest Profits with our good friend and big deals specialist, Mr. Ken Beaton, calling in all the way from lovely Almonte. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Almonte, Ontario. Just a hop, skip, and a jump outside of Ottawa, give or take.
Yep, you bet.
So, Ken, how's it going? Well, how have you been doing the last little while? I haven't seen you for a while, my friend. What's new with you?
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you actually up in Fort McMurray next week. Really looking forward to that event. Good to get away, but been very busy here and just getting ready for real estate, getting back in the groove here after coming back from Edmonton, being out there for 2.5 years, getting back here and just reestablishing myself in the network. It was a bit of a shock and a bit bigger of a deal than I thought it would have been. So spending a lot of time networking.
Well, sounds like you're back in the saddle and back at it, and your lovely wife Joanne is starting a new career and hard at it with the property management company and everything, so you guys are staying busy.
Oh, absolutely. No shortage of work here, that's for sure. Just hours.
Well, it's been a pretty busy time around here, too. I just got back. I was in Vancouver over the weekend attending Ted Thomas's 3-day workshop that he does along with his training for tax lien certificates and tax deeds. So that was very interesting. I wasn't there so much as a participant as I was doing some filming for Ted. We're going to be doing a promotion of his in November. So I was doing some filming there and just kind of watching how he does his events. And I tell you, the guy's a complete master. He puts on a fantastic event. So I'm sure there's a few folks that are on the call tonight who were at that 3-day workshop. And it was really good to see so many familiar, friendly faces at that event, and just see some of the folks that are really taking action and putting these things into use in their own lives. There's nothing more motivating than watching a student take what they've learned and run with it and really start to see some results. Would you agree, Ken?
Oh, that's exactly what how I feel as well, and that's exactly what motivates me and keeps me going, because my passion has become, I've identified my passion as a teacher, educator, mentor to others, and I just love to see people become successful, and yeah, it really juices me.
Exactly. We've got Bob here who wrote in, I attended one of Ted's earlier workshops. He's a machine. Yes, he most definitely is. The gentleman is 72 years old, I believe, and showing absolutely no signs of slowing down. He absolutely loves what he does and does a fantastic job at it. So I hope I'm going half as strong as Ted Thomas is by the time I'm his age. The good Lord willing that I actually make it to that age. Which some people, including yourself, question from time to time, Ken.
Exactly.
All right. Well, enough with the witty repartee. I see by the clock that it's 6 o'clock, so let's get at it. Wagner, you can hit the button there, my friend, and we'll get this show started. And again, for everyone who's just come on the call, first of all, welcome. My name is Dave DeBow. It's my pleasure to be co-hosting tonight's event, and again, it's all about big deals, bigger benefits, biggest profits, the big deal solution to life-changing wealth creation with my good friend Ken Beaton, who definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to doing big deals. That's what we're going to be focusing on right now for tonight's event. We're looking at approximately 19 minutes for the call tonight, and let's just make sure the technology is working. So again, I want to thank you and welcome you to the event, and I want to thank you for investing your precious time, energy, and attention to be here tonight. You made a very wise decision, and Ken and I promise you that it will be well worth it for you. You're going to be very, very pleased with what you're going to be learning from tonight's event, and just the fact that you are on the call tonight shows me that you're a serious student of success, because like good old Woody Allen says, love him or hate him, he is a very, very smart guy, and he came up with the with the saying 80% of success is just showing up. So obviously on a webinar, Ken and I can't reach out to you physically and give you a high five, but if you're kind of flexible, please go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back, or if you're not all that flexible, just acknowledge yourself in your mind for being here right now, because again, thousands of people heard about this event, but you actually took action, you enrolled, and you've shown up for it. So that definitely puts you in the top percentile. So I want to welcome everyone who's come to us tonight from the Canadian Profits Group, folks who have been part of Canadian Real Estate Profits or the Fast Track Inner Circle in the past, or somehow have gotten connected with me. I also want to welcome everyone who came from your group, Ken, folks that I know you promoted this webinar as well to folks in your list as well, so I want to welcome everyone who's come from there, and just let everybody know that you're in for a big treat tonight. We're going to have a fantastic presentation this evening. No pressure there, Ken, but I'm just telling everybody it's going to be fantastic. So.
Oh, I'm doing this?
Yeah, you're definitely involved. So I want to remind everybody, please feel free to take notes. It's always a good idea to take notes. I know when I'm on a live event or a webcast or something like this, I'm taking notes, but I want to let you know you can relax too, because sometimes if you're too busy trying to write everything down, you kind of miss the important message and the big picture that we're trying to get across. So feel free to take notes, but you can relax, because I'm going to show you how to get a free copy of all of the slides from tonight's presentation, which we will email to you in a PDF. It'll look kind of like that, what you're seeing on the screen there. You can get a free copy of the slides, and I'll tell you how to get that at the end of the call for no charge. So just stick around till the end of the call to get your complimentary copy of the slides. All right, so what I'd like to do, just to kind of get things going and get a little bit of interaction with everybody who's on the call live, is to do a poll and get to know you a little bit. So the first poll we're going to be doing tonight is, how much real estate experience do you currently have? So you've got a couple of choices. You've got no real estate experience, and if you own your own personal residence, I'm talking about investment real estate experience. So if you own your own personal residence, that's great, but that doesn't count as real estate investing experience. If you're a novice, that means you've got 1 to 3 doors. If you're an experienced single-family investor, so maybe you've got 4 or more doors, but most of them are single-family properties, or if you are a multi-unit investor already, investing in 4plexes and above. So let me see if I can figure out how to do this. I'm going to send everybody a poll here. Launch the poll, so feel free. The poll is open. And we'll see what the results are here. Okay, we've got stuff coming along here. We'll give it about 10 seconds to see where everybody's at. And right now we've got, well, we got 67% of everybody voted. So if you're just coming on, again, we've just put up a poll to find out where everybody's at with their real estate investing experience. And good, we're just about at, when we hit 75% of everybody having voted, we're going to cut this off. So let's give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we will close the poll right now and let you know what the results are. So, how do we share this? Let's see. We'll share the results. And 27% of the folks on the call right now are beginners. They don't have any real estate investing experience. 44% are novices, so they got between 1 and 3 doors. 17% are experienced single-family investors, so 4+ doors, and 12% are multi-unit investors already, who are already investing in 4plexes and above. So that is great. Thank you very much for everybody for participating in the survey. We'll do another couple of quick surveys later on. So that's interesting, Ken. So we're going to be jumping into the call right now, but for those folks who are brand new newbies, is there going to be a lot of meat and potatoes that they can take out of tonight's call?
Oh, there's going to be a lot of meat and potatoes, as you say, for absolutely everybody. New investors and experienced investors as well.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. So, oops. Sorry, guys, if I kind of pause and stuff here. This is real. This is live. This is me and my technological know-how and lack thereof. So anyhow, I'm kind of managing the questions and stuff here. So bear with me if things kind of slow down from time to time, but no, we should be good. So great. Thanks, everybody, for participating, and let's jump into it. So I want to let you know about questions and answers. There is a place there where you're welcome to type in your questions, and what we're going to do is I will ask Ken your questions for you, but please keep on topic. So if we're talking about one particular thing, please keep your question to that specific topic. If you go off on a tangent, I'm not going to be able to address that question because we have to be respectful of everybody's time. And because we have hundreds and hundreds of people on the call live, we may not be able to answer everybody's question. But if we can't answer your question on the call, we will get back to you with an answer within 24 to 48 hours. All questions will be addressed, and I'm sure you really appreciate me volunteering you for that, Ken. But we want to make sure that everybody's questions get answered, so that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Mr. Ken Beaton. And Ken, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the keyboard and the mouse so you can control the procedure of the slides, and I'll let you take it away. So
right.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ken, and your background.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Dave. Well, there's quite a collage of pictures there that everybody can see, and this is a reflection of what my life is like today. It's a pretty darn good life as far as I'm concerned, and I've had the privilege and honor of being able to co-author a book, Creative Real Estate Investing for Canadians, with my good friend Dave Dubeau. Actually, it was at Dave's insistence that I write it, so that was a lot of fun. Top left there, you can see a picture of myself and my beautiful wife, Joanne. And, you know, what I'm able to do today as a result of investing in the real estate has allowed me to fulfill my passion of teaching, to take my family on extended holidays. You can see a picture of all my three daughters, grandchildren, son-in-laws, and my in-laws. That was at my eldest daughter's wedding in Cuba, which we paid for everybody to go there. We've since gone to Cuba again. We've gone to Florida. So it's a real blast being able to do these types of things with and for your family. And there you see a picture of Darren, and with Joanne and myself, I've had the great privilege of being able to start a business from scratch with Darren as a partner, and moved out west there a couple of years ago, started Fast Track Real Estate with him. I was president of that division for a couple of years until I decided to move back home here and continue on with my investing and my true passion, which is real estate.
So, Ken, at this point in time, how many doors do you have in your portfolio?
Currently, we have 118 in our portfolio, and haven't really added to that over the past few years because of my involvement with Darren directly. But I'm actually, jumping right back into the game and starting to look at some properties again, and actively going to grow that, continue to grow the portfolio.
Sounds good. So life's pretty good right now, my friend, but it hasn't always been that way, has it?
Absolutely not. There's a, is that going to go to the next slide or not?
Got to move the thing and give it a little click there, buddy.
Yeah. No, it's not wanting to move here, Dave.
All right. Yeah, it moved. It just took a little while.
There we go. All right. Yeah, you're right. Things haven't always been rosy. It wasn't always as good as it is today. And I think that, it's a good thing that ignorance is bliss, because if looking back, we had a really good life. I mean, I've got three beautiful daughters, the grandchildren, beautiful wife, the whole bit. But it certainly would have been a little bit nicer to have some money. And it would have made life a little bit nicer. But I really do not have any regrets. During that time, what we were doing, we had a campground that we purchased from my parents. But it wasn't a great...
I believe the term is a seasonal resort, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but you've brainwashed me into calling it a campground. So, yes, it was a seasonal resort by the time I sold it. It started off as a campground, And for the first 20 years of our marriage, money was really tight. Because of this, we were living on $24,000 a year annually. Didn't think anything different of that, but when I look back on that now, I thought, holy lifting, how did we manage to get by? And I was always working. I've always had, even to this day, I'm a bit of a workaholic. I've always had 2 or 3 jobs at a time. I drove a school bus for a good many years. I snowplowed in the wintertime during my off season. I spent a year as a driver instructor, and that was I sort of call that scary fun, because it was a lot of fun, but it was darn scary at the same time. And I even tried my hand as a real estate agent during the early 90s, and I wasn't overly successful at it at that point in time because I didn't realize that I was an out-of-the-box thinker, which I've been labeled as now. But back then, all I kept hitting was roadblock after roadblock. People saying you can't do that, that's not how we do it, etc. So,
well, I've got a theory about how go back one slide, buddy. I've got a theory about why you were able to make it on $24,000 a year with a family of 5. And I think it's because you're able to live off the land. I mean, if you see that picture of Ken, bottom right, that's what he looked like for most of his adult life. And living off the land, I mean, you look like frickin' Grizzly Adams there, buddy.
Well, especially when I had my plaid shirt and jeans on, absolutely. Or Owl off of that TV show. That's what my nickname was. All right, are you finished?
I am finished.
During that time, Joanne was also, she sewed all the clothes for the children. She sewed a lot of clothes for herself. She even sewed shirts for myself. And we didn't think anything of it. She, in order to earn some spare money, she was doing baking, which she would sell during the summer months in the store. And things got so bad that when we wore out our furniture that we were originally given for our wedding, having no money to go out and buy new furniture, didn't think anything of it. We just used scrap lumber from our house, and I built the frame for a new couch, and Joanne recovered all the cushions. So we got by just fine. It was poor, but life was good just the same because we had good family, and we had great health as well. And things would have continued for quite a while, I'm sure. But we had a couple things change in my life that, sorry, I'm just trying to get the screen to move here. Waiting for it.
There you go.
It's coming? Okay, yeah. So, as I say, I looking back, I realized we were pretty poor, but we were healthy. We had our health. Everything was good. And things would have continued on for quite a while, I'm sure, except that I experienced a couple life-changing issues. And the first one was the sudden passing of my mother in October of '97. She passed away very suddenly. And it was quite a traumatic experience for myself because she actually passed away in my arms while I was trying to get her into the car to take her to the hospital. And I haven't shared that with you before. But I didn't have a whole lot of time to really grieve because as traumatic an experience as it was, I was left with the responsibility of caring for my father, who was in his 80s, suffering from dementia at the time. So we had to go through the process of taking care of him, getting him into a home, someplace safe. Well, we renovated his house so that we could move into there and bring him back in the summertime and take care of him. That was the plan. Unfortunately, a little bit over 2 months after my mother passed away, my father passed away in his sleep. And we thought, okay, it was just a bit of a wake-up call, to say the least. And then, if that wasn't enough, I'm sure people remember the ice storm of '98. The day after my father passed away, we got hit with this enormous ice storm that it was one of the most, unless you can actually experience it, it's hard to explain how eerie it was living in the middle of the country and where you're used to seeing lights in the distance and so forth, and there's nothing but pitch black. There's no hum of the refrigerator or anything of that nature. It was just a lot of time to reflect and go into survival mode because that's exactly what we had to do. And so the whole thing was very life-altering when I look back at it now, but you move on. And it turned out to be a real wake-up call for me. What I realized was I needed to start taking care of not only myself but my family, because living on $24,000 a year, just getting by, wasn't going to cut it for us. And all of a sudden, with the passing of my parents, I realized that I'm the head of the family. I've got to step up and I've got to become accountable and take charge of things. So the summer of '98, after realizing this, we invited a gentleman, not knowing any better, I invited a gentleman to come up and speak to us about our financial situation. And he was a financial planner, or as I've now come to realize, nothing other than a salesperson for the company that he was working for, but they call themselves financial planners. And we asked him, how much are we going to need to have in savings in order to retire comfortably in, say 15 years from now? And he did some calculations based upon what we were earning and what our lifestyle was, and it was a very modest lifestyle. So when he told me the number of $1 million, approximately $1 million, he might as well have told me 10, 20, or $100 million, because $1 million was so far beyond my context. I became really depressed, honestly. But what do? You've got to move on. So we thought, not knowing any different or any better, we started saving money. And where do you put that money? At that time, the only place that we knew was in the mutual fund market. So we started saving money in the mutual funds. And I didn't know what else to do or how to do it any differently until a little bit later in life, in the year 2000, I picked up a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And to say that book changed my life would be an understatement. Now, I know it's not the best written book, but I don't care. It's not about the writing, it's about the content. And Robert himself talks about that. And what happened was we homeschooled our children for the early part of their lives, and we wanted to raise our children to become financially literate. So we were always looking for good material to teach them. And I came across this book. It caught my eye in the bookstore, The Colors. Picked it up, started to read it in the bookstore, and realized, okay, this is interesting. I took it home. Not being a reader, I don't think I've ever sat down and read an entire book from front to back without stopping before, but that's exactly what happened with this book. And it did literally change my life, because it showed me the alternative other than just the mutual funds, and it made me realize that, especially back when I was a real estate agent, what I was trying to do back then, I could do. I was right. I just didn't know how to do it. So that book gave me the answer how. So, are you there, Dave?
I'm here, buddy. Yep. And I just want to shout out to everybody. Yeah, there's some metallic sounds in the back. There's a bit of background noise. Sorry, that's as good as it gets, and I need to be on the call. I can't mute it just because of the way we're controlling everything. So sorry if the sound quality isn't 110%, but I'm pretty sure you can hear us fairly well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, it just got real quiet there. I wasn't sure if I was just talking to myself. So yeah, that was a major turning point for me. With the passing of my parents, the realization that I needed to grow up and become responsible for my family and myself, and lead by example. And fortunately, coming across the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad gave me the tools, or gave me the how, gave me the why, and allowed me to start moving forward. So that's when I realized that real estate was the answer for us, and it was the logical next step for us as well, because we've been in the real estate business indirectly by managing the campground, having over 100 tenants and having cottages and the store, the rental business, etc. We knew how to manage people. I was also, as I mentioned earlier, a realtor in the early 90s, so I was familiar with real estate and the values of real estate. So that was just a logical next step for us. So we started to buy real estate. The first investment that we made was through a company called 2020 Investments. This is a picture of the complex. It's in Edmonton, Alberta. And funny thing is, when we left Edmonton just a few months back, we had never seen this property from the day that we bought it to the day that we sold it. And we thought, we're here in Edmonton, we've got to go drive by it and see what we owned at one time. And the funny joke was, you know, the whole time that we owned this property, it was in a rental pool, so our cash flow was $2.75 a month. So it was a start, but we didn't know any different at the time, and it got us going, and but we knew that we had to do better than that. So our next property that we jumped into was a property in Kingston, Ontario. My eldest daughter was going off to college, and Joanne, after reading the book Rich Dad as well, she realized, and she was fully on board with the real estate investing. She said, we need to buy a house in Kingston rather than paying rent for Jen. You know, we could buy a house, she could rent it out to friends and so forth. And I said, excellent idea, but not a single family house. We need to buy a multi. And just by chance, I turned down this one side street one day and drove past this building right here, 1018 Johnson Street in Kingston, and it was a triplex, and we bought that property within a matter of 2 weeks. So we were well on our way with investing. We got the bug. We knew that this was the path for us, and over the course of the next several years, we bought numerous other properties. In 2004, we bought an 11-unit apartment building, which there's a picture of it there, bottom right. We bought a 6-unit building, 22-unit building, 18, 54, and 21 units. And we bought lots of single-family homes as well, a couple of duplexes in there. But that was the bulk of our investments. And there was a couple other multi-units that I bought and sold in that period of time as well. So that was the, we started off with that. After that, buying that 11-unit apartment building was when I started to get educated in the real estate courses, and that's when things really took off for us, because that's when I realized how I could start to do things creatively. Up until that point in time, I just had the ideas, didn't know how to implement them. Once I got the education, I got the mentor teaching me and helping me, that's when things really took off for us.
And just remind us, Ken, how much did you end up investing in your education altogether during that time?
Yeah, the education, you have to remember that I was a cheap son of a gun way back then, coming from you know, an income of next to nothing. I went out to a free evening event, and they convinced me to sign up for a relatively inexpensive weekend event, which turned out to be an introductory event. And of course, that's where they sell you up into the next level of education. And I continued down that path because I truly saw the value in what they were presenting, or else I wouldn't have spent the money. In the end, the real estate courses themselves was in excess of $40,000. During that time frame, though, we also took a lot of other programs for personal self-development. Over a period of a year and a half, we easily spent $80,000. Easily have spent, you know, since then, $100,000 in my education, with no regrets at all. It was excellent. Absolutely, and it's excellent education. Highly recommend it, but it's not cheap. That's for sure.
So, long story short is.
The long story short is, over a period of approximately 8 years, we created a portfolio worth well over $8 million, and you know, knowing what I know now, I could do it a lot faster if I needed to. So it's just, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great learning experience, and now it's, you know, it's allowing me the lifestyle that I talked about early on there, and it's allowing me the opportunity to share and give back to fellow investors.
Well, that is awesome. Well, thanks very much, Ken, for sharing with us a little bit about your background. And I just want to remind everybody on the call again, welcome to everyone who's just come on recently. We had a whole bunch of people come on a little bit after the top of the hour. So just a reminder, what's in it for you for being on the call tonight? We're going to be covering why big deals mean bigger benefits for you as an investor and the biggest profits in the business. like the picture says, sometimes bigger is better. I have fun putting these slides together, you can tell that. Why now is the time for you to do your first big deal? So again, whether you're a brand new investor, a newbie, or you've got a little bit of experience dabbling in single-family homes, or even if you have significant experience dabbling in single-family homes, you're going to be learning some valuable information in tonight's call. If you are already experienced in doing multifamilies, again, Ken's been doing this for a long time. He's got some very creative tricks up his sleeve, so I'm sure you're going to learn some great stuff too. And now is definitely the time. We're also going to show you where the best deals are located. Again, location, 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 kind of like that Dunkin' Donuts right beside the cop shop there in that picture. I love that picture. We're also going to look at the 3 biggest mistakes a lot of novice big deal investors make and how to avoid those. So again, the caption there says mistakes. It could be that the purpose of your life is only to serve as a warning to others. Let's not have that be the purpose of your life. Let's have the purpose of your life be to learn from the mistakes of others. Again, there's a saying that a smart person learns from their own mistakes, and a wise person learns from the mistakes and the experience of others. So let's be wise about this. And we're going to wrap up with the top 3 ways to get started on your own big deals. And Ken and I are also going to be telling you about our newest live online training program, which is called the Apartment Building Wealth Creation Program. And that's going to be starting in just 2 short weeks. So, Ken, let's get started. And again, I just want to remind everybody that's come on recently, go ahead, take notes, but don't freak out about it too much. You can relax, because at the end of the call, I'm going to show you how to get a copy of all of the slides from tonight's presentation emailed to you in a PDF, absolutely no charge, and I'll show you how you can get those at the end of tonight's call. So let's get going with our second poll, because we've got a bunch of new people that have just come up here. So let me see if I can get the polls going again. So our poll for right now is, let's open it up. What do you like the most about the idea of investing in apartment buildings? What do you like most about the idea of investing in apartment buildings? So go ahead and vote on that. Should be popping up on your screen right now. We'll give it a few minutes there. We've got different things that you might like about it or not. So cash flow, so a lot of people think of this as passive income. It may or may not be all that passive, but we're definitely talking about cash flow, positive cash flow at the end of every month, the stuff that you put in your pocket and bring home the bacon with. Then there's also major wealth creation, creating big chunks of equity and wealth for yourself and your family. It could be having more significance in your life and in your investments by playing big with big deals instead of little deals, or maybe you've got some other reason that you like the idea of investing in apartment buildings. So, okay, we've got 67%, 69%. We'll wait till we get 70% of everybody voting. It looks like we're getting pretty close there. Why? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Let's close it, and we'll take a look at this, and we'll share with everybody what the results are. Okay, so interesting. We've got 58% of everybody on the call live saying that they are interested for cash flow. So they're looking at how to create income from real estate investing to enjoy in the short term. We've got 36% who are primarily interested in major wealth creation, 3% who are interested in playing big and working on big deals, and 2% have other interests in mind. So thank you very much, everybody, for sharing that. All right, and let's jump in there, Ken, and I'll let you take the controls again.
All right, sounds good. So we're going to talk about why now is the right time to do your first big deal. Just go over some interesting stats as well. I mean, you may not have noticed, but being in the industry, I've noticed there's a huge rental shortage, and it's growing fast, and we wonder why this is. Just recently read, or actually I was watching the CTV News the other night, and they were predicting that the home ownership is going to be dropping from 68% down as low as 63%. So I did a little bit of research on that, and I discovered that it is closer, the normal is closer to 63%, and the reason why it jumped up to 68% was because of the cheap financing that's available right now. So why is it going to drop? Well, affordability is a big one. As prices go up, so does the amount of debt. So, Fort McMurray, Calgary, Edmonton, these cities that have experiencing huge growth in the real estate market, it's all good and fine, that your equity is growing if you own the property. But if you're trying to get in there and you're to buy or refinance it, well, there's just more debt that you have to cover now. So the affordability is harder on the individuals. As interest rates increase, so does the cost of debt as well. It's amazing what a 0.5%, 1% or a 0.5% interest rate increase will do to your mortgage payment when it comes up for renewal. So for ourselves personally right now, as we've seen the trend for interest rates climbing, any chance that we can lock in for long term, we're jumping on it. We just recently locked in on on the biggest mortgage that we have on our real estate portfolio for 10 years at 4%. So when we saw that, we jumped all over it. Wages are definitely not keeping up with the high cost of ownership as well. I've been seeing, personally, I've seen a lot of people losing their high-paying jobs and having to replace that with lower-income jobs. Therefore, they can't afford the mortgage payments of the house that they even own without going out and buying more homes. So it's a shrinking of the middle class, you might say. Another factor is our good friend Mr. Flaherty here.
Yeah.
He's thinking, he has made some wise decisions. Instead of tightening up the debt that people have with their credit cards, he's trying to tighten up the debt that people have with their homes. And by doing this, he's changing the mortgage rules. So he's made it more difficult for small investors to get into the game. Interesting stat that 80% of first-time home buyers need insured financing. That means that insured financing is once you borrow more than 80% of the value of a property, you have to have an insured financing, which is like CMHC or Genworth. So 80% of the people getting into the game, they have to seek out that insured financing. As I mentioned, the government's changed the rules for qualifying in order to slow things down, and they did so by shortening the amortization period, meaning the lifespan of the mortgage. They've shortened it down to 25 years. At one point, you could get it spread out over as many as 35 years. They've even tightened up the GDS ratio. That's the gross debt service, the amount of debt that you as an individual can carry and still qualify for a mortgage. So they've changed those rules, making it more difficult. And so what's happening now is that 17% of these high ratio borrowers are no longer able to qualify. And so, going back, 80% of the people need to go for insured financing, but 17% of that group can no longer qualify. And if they can't qualify, they remain as renters. So they're no longer going out of the rental pool into home ownership. They're either sliding back into the rental pool or staying in the rental pool. So this leads us into the shrinking middle class, and again, doing a little bit of research recently, I came across a poll that Frank Graves recently did, stating that the middle class has shrunk from 67% to 48% over the past 10 years. And I thought that was a bit extreme, but then I got thinking about it, in all the markets that I've been investing in recently, and one in particular, Cornwall and Smith Falls. Cornwall is about 50,000, Smith Falls is only about 10,000, but they're both heavily dependent upon manufacturing jobs. And all these high-paying manufacturing jobs have been wiped out and replaced with low-paying jobs like call centers. So there's still lots of employment out there, but the employment is being replaced with lower paying jobs, which means there's less money available for the middle class. Stats Canada has, they've got the stats to prove this. The 320,000 manufacturing jobs lost, causing an earning loss of anywhere between 18 and 35%. So that's just, exactly what I was talking about. These high-paying manufacturing jobs, they're gone for whatever reason, and all of a sudden people are having to go out and replace their income with call center type jobs, Walmart, Home Depot, the service industry jobs, and their incomes are being cut by 18 to 35%. Again, watching the CTV News recently, a staggering statistic that was shared was that 5 million Canadians are earning less than $15,000 per year. And that's staggering. I'm not surprised, because when I look at many of my renters, I would say at least 50% of them fall into that category of earning way below. Some of them are less than $10,000 a year. I don't know how they survive. The middle class just can't afford as much home as they used to be able to afford, or they must work harder in order to achieve home ownership, especially in Vancouver and Toronto. You see, people working 2 jobs. Oh, are you jumping ahead there, Dave?
I am, buddy. We got to keep an eye on the clock, my friend.
Yep, that's fine. So tenants, another interesting stat, tenants make up 1/3 of all households and can be as high as 40%. And over the past 15 years, only 10% of new construction has been designated for the rentals. So it's not keeping up with that 33% of the rental pool. Part of the reason for that is the cost to build is far too high for the market rents that can support it. Condominium construction is forcing land values up, because it's the only thing that people can afford to build and sell are the condominiums. CMHC has a stat that the tenant growth is approximately 15,000 annually, yet the new units that are being built, sorry?
Did you say 50 or 15?
50,000 right. Tenant growth every year, yet there's only 15 to 20,000 new units that are being built annually, and the majority of those units are being built for affordable housing through government grants and so forth. So they're not helping the average tenant out there at all. So there's a huge shortfall. There's a huge shortfall of rentals for the growing rental market. Then we have the demographics. I mean, we have an aging population. A lot of people are seeing their equity shrinking, and or their savings shrinking. They're not able to afford to buy as much as they used to, or their pensions are being cut and downsized. So a lot of people are accessing their equity by selling their properties and going into the rental pool. And by doing this, it also allows them to release themselves of all the the maintenance of a house, owning a house, cutting the grass, etc. So they're able to take the equity out of their house and use that to supplement their retirement years. And
yeah, that's very, very popular. You see so many people doing that from Vancouver and from Toronto. They bought their house 30 years ago for $75,000. It's worth $750 now. Why wouldn't they? I mean, it just makes all sorts of sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, and we're just at the leading edge of the baby boomers now, and that's going to last another 30 years. Just that trend itself.
So I just want to remind everybody, because we've had quite a few people come on in the last 15-20 minutes, what we're going to be doing for Q&A is, if you have any questions, go ahead, type them into the question box. Please, what we're asking for is that you keep it focused on the specific topic that we're talking about right now. So again, we're talking about apartment building investing, and the particular subject that we're working on right now. I'll be happy to ask Ken the question that you have, and if we aren't able to get to everybody's questions on the call, we'll definitely answer them offline. So just want to remind you about that. And we've got a few comments here. Ken, this is really good, awesome stuff, and that comes from Brett. And let me pull this off so I can read this a little bit better here. Janet asks, Ken, do you have any thoughts or stats on people adding suites to their houses?
I don't have any stats. However, I know from personal experience that is one of the most popular and most affordable ways for young people to get into home ownership, is buying a house that can either be suited or is already suited. So that's an excellent way to get into the game, because you can still take advantage of it being your primary residence, therefore having the CMHC financing with it. There's definitely a lot of there is a growing trend to that, and there's also a growing trend to the municipalities being open to that. Here in my own hometown, it's very popular. Not a lot of people are doing it, but it's very popular with the municipality, because we have a huge rental crisis here in our small town of Almonte, because we have less than 15 or 16% of the rental of the properties are in the rental pool, and yet there's over 30% of the people are renters. So definitely something to think of.
All right, we've got some questions coming in about financing, so we're going to be talking about that right now, and we'll see if some of those are answered, and if not, I'll bring them up as we're going along. So go ahead there.
All right. So I'll just talk about financing for the commercial. There's a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding with financing. A lot of people think that it's very difficult to finance bigger properties, and commercial financing is expensive. There are some challenges and drawbacks with commercial financing. And when I talk about commercial financing, I'm talking about residential mortgage, but it's for units more than 4. So from units 1 to 4, you can get residential financing. 5 units and above, it has to go to commercial residential financing. So that's what I'm talking about, commercial. There are definitely some application fees that you are not going to normally be having to pay if you're looking at under 4 units. And there's also, they're not quite as flexible to pay down. Well, they're not flexible to pay down at all. You can't pay down your mortgage early. You can't pay it out early. So there's some drawbacks to the commercial. On the flip side, though, there's some significant features and benefits to commercial. What I love about commercial is that it's the property itself that qualifies for the debt servicing, and it's not the applicant. It doesn't mean that I don't have to have good credit or I don't have to have any income or anything like that, but it is the property that qualifies for it. If you're looking at a 4-unit or smaller, you, the individual, have to qualify for the mortgage, and they'll only allow a portion of the rent from that rental property to help you qualify. It's a different set of rules with the commercial. The rates can be very reasonable. So a lot of people think that commercial money is very expensive. It can be, and it's definitely more expensive if it's not commercial residential. If it's not with insured financing, it's going to be more expensive as well. Rates for commercial, and but the caveat there is that it's with insured financing through CMHC. It also, because with CMHC, it requires less money down. So most people think that you still have to put 20% down. That's not the case. When you get into the commercial residential, you can do 15% down, and they will allow you to put a second mortgage on it. It's also much easier if you're self-employed, like a contractor, to be able to qualify for this type of job, again, because it's not you qualifying for it, it's the property itself that's qualifying for it.
Yeah, so I think that answers, let's just go back there just for a second. I think that answers the questions we have from Angelo and John, and they're asking about how can you get going with this if you're making a low income or you're self-employed or something like that. And again, that gets back to the point, like you say, when you're doing these residential commercial financing, the banks are looking a lot more at how much money the property creates versus how much money you're making personally. You do have to guarantee the loan, so to speak, but as far as debt service, in other words, paying the loan, they're looking at how much revenue can that property reasonably be expected to generate. And once you get 5 units and above, they're much more interested in that versus your own personal income. Am I getting that right, Ken?
Absolutely, you hit it right on the head. I mean, the silly thing is that myself right now being self-employed, and I keep changing career paths or career titles, so I don't have even 3 years of steady self-employed income to go to the bank with. I can't buy a single-family house, but I can go out and buy a multi-unit apartment building tomorrow, no problem.
Well, that works in quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump in and talk about cheap money. Yeah, you don't mind that.
Yeah, money is still very cheap right now, even though interest rates are starting to climb. It's still at historic lows. 5 years ago, we're still below what the rates were 5 years ago. Actually, in 2007, we borrowed significantly, almost $2 million to buy a large property, and we borrowed at 5.5% over 30 years, and that shows what our monthly payment was for that particular mortgage. In 2012, we were able to, that was a 5-year term, so it came up for renewal, and we were able to refinance that property, not refinance, but renew the mortgage for the balance of 25 years at a rate of 3.8%, and that was with a 10-year term. I could have got it down to 3.2, but that was only a 5-year term, and I knew that 3.8, 10 years, I'm all over that. So, when you can lock your one biggest expense up for the next 10 years, well, all of your income still goes up. Why wouldn't you, right? So,
and let's take a look at that. You just created, if my numbers, almost $2,000 a month improved cash flow.
Well, it's right there,
Dave. There you go. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, $22,000 a year.
$22,000 a year. We just increased our cash flow on that one property alone, and that translates into an increased value for that entire property of $340,000.
Wow.
So that's significant. And I mentioned earlier, I was just quoted some really good rates because a student of mine is looking at buying a 12-plex in Fort Saskatchewan right now as we speak. We're going through that whole process, and I put him in touch with my lender, who quoted him 3.55% for 5 years or 4.25 for 10 years, with 85% financing. So he only needs 15% down.
Right. Okay.
So
that is very impressive. Yes, we touched on this already, but yeah, go ahead and explain this a little bit more.
Well, the reality is that, as I mentioned, if you're 4 units or less, you, the individual who's applying for the mortgage for your property, you have to qualify. It's your personal income that has to guarantee the debt and used to calculate whether you can afford that debt or not. They will, depending on the lender, they'll take 50 to 80% of the income that your investment property generates, and they'll take 100% of all the expenses that your property costs and put that in the mix to see how much you can afford to, how much debt you can afford to carry. You get into the commercial world, though, and they don't look at you from a financial perspective. They look at you from a credit worthiness. You have to have good credit, and you have to have a net worth of a meager $100,000, which isn't too difficult for a lot of people to achieve these days. But you don't have to even have a job. You don't have to have a T4. You can apply based on the strength of the property itself.
And even if you don't have those qualifications, if your money partner does, I'm pretty sure you could figure out a creative way of getting somebody involved in a transaction like that.
Absolutely. Now, if you're bringing in a partner because you don't have the cash and your credit score is, say, below 650, you might even, sorry?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you've got poor credit, below 650, you might even be better just to stay out of the application and let your joint venture partner qualify for the mortgage, and you just become a silent joint venture partner. There's lots of ways of doing it.
Exactly.
So, we've already touched on this one a little bit in the sense that, I can buy a 12-unit apartment building, but I have a hard time buying a single-family home. When I bought my house out in Edmonton a couple of years ago, I had to go to a B lender and pay 4.5% when the going rate was 3%. And I could only get on my single-family home, which was my primary residence, they'd only go 80% as well. So it's a lot tougher to get financing.
I find it ironic because here you are. Here's a guy with 118 or 120 doors in his portfolio who can't qualify for a mortgage to buy his own house because he's self-employed.
Exactly.
So,
it's stupid rules. You just need to that's the part about being creative, though, is to understand the rules. That's all being creative is understanding the rules and working within them.
Exactly.
So, and then obviously the absolute best time to buy a property is now, providing that it cash flows. I don't care whether the economy is going up or down, or if the markets are going up or down. If that property cash flows and it cash flows well, then that's the time you should be buying it. Cash flow is always king.
All right, very good. So let's just pause very, very briefly because I gotta pay attention to the clock, you guys, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time because questions are flying in a mile a minute, which is fantastic. I appreciate, we got questions from Olivet, Darwin, Dee, John Mack, David, Angelo, John Mack again, Tracy, Jeff, Bob, Ruth, Brett, Savine, Chris, Brett, Andrea, Bob, Tracy, Dee Dee, and Robert. So lots of questions coming in, you guys. I appreciate that. However, we're trying to keep this to 90 minutes, and it's going to be impossible if we answer every single question. So again, just to let you know, if we can't answer your question on the live call, Ken will answer offline each one if it's not covered in the actual classes here. So quick question here. What percentage down payment is usually required for a commercial mortgage? So you talked about 15%. Is that normal?
Well, if you're going with insured financing, you can do it with as little as 15%, correct?
Okay.
Now, if you're doing uninsured, it has to be, depends on the lender, it could be 70, 75%.
All right. Somebody asked here, what is good cash flow?
I have been taught through my investing career that when you factor in absolutely all of the expenses, and this is critical, we're going to be touching on this a little bit later, because this is one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is not understanding what the true expenses are. If after taking into consideration all true expenses, you end up with $100 per door, then you're doing quite well.
All right, very good. So that answered Don's question and Robert's question and Tracy's question. So there you go. $100 per door is a good expectation for cash flow. All right, buddy. Looking at the clock, let's pitter patter get on to big idea number 2, which is why big deals mean bigger benefits for us as investors, and of course, what everybody's really interested in, well, in addition to cash flow, is the biggest profits in the business. So take it away and talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the value of properties, the single family compared to the multi-units. A single family home is based upon the value of other single family homes in the same area. When you have a realtor come in, they do a CMA, which is called a comparative market analysis. They're comparing your house or the house you're looking at with other similar houses. The values are determined by personal needs, wants, and emotions. They're not driven by cash flow, because homes, generally speaking, do not generate cash flow. So if you've got a rental property, a single-family home as a rental property, that's great that it's generating cash flow, but it's always going to be valued as a single-family home compared to other single-family homes. Whereas when you look at a multi-unit building, it's looked at a little bit...
Sorry, I just want to hit on that very, very important point there, Ken. So again, a single-family home, the market value there is largely, if not completely, driven by emotion, right?
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that? I mean, that's the bottom line. That's why there are such huge fluctuations in market value of single-family homes compared to commercial real estate, especially commercial residential like apartment buildings. So very, very important point to understand, and also explains why even if you've got a house with a suite in it, that suite doesn't really increase the value of the house very much as far as from a sale point of view.
Exactly. Not nearly as much as if it was an actual apartment building.
Exactly.
So,
okay.
Looking at apartment buildings, then the value of an apartment building is determined by the cash flow or the profitability of that particular property. So the greater the cash flow that you have, the greater the value. And, if you're able to, there's two variables, your income and your expenses. So if you can increase your income or decrease your expenses, it's going to generate a greater profit and ultimately a greater value. And no apartment building should ever be bought based on emotion. It should be strictly the numbers.
Very good point.
Okay, so now
I love this example, Ken. This is such a perfect example. And also, just a quick reminder, a few slides back, you showed how by getting a better interest rate on your financing for your apartment building, not only did you lower your expenses by $2,000 a month, thereby increasing your cash flow by almost $24,000 a year. That translates into an increase in value. What was it, $340,000? Is that what it was?
Yeah, well over $300,000, which goes, it doesn't put money in your pocket, but what it does is it increases your net worth, which as an investor, because we are business people, it's extremely important to take care of our net worth statements and make sure they're growing all the time so that when we go to the bank, and we have a much stronger portfolio to be able to borrow against.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, so let's talk about replacing a furnace in a house.
Okay, so here's a perfect example. When you own a house, even as an investment property, typically what happens is the tenants are paying for their utilities, the heat, the hydro, the water, etc. So all of a sudden the furnace dies, it's too old, you have to replace the furnace. That's your cost because you're maintaining that house. So you spend $5,000, put in a brand new furnace, and who gets the benefit from that? You don't as the owner. Because it's not lowering your expense, it's lowering the tenant's expense. So it's not really increasing your cash flow. The only time it's going to add value is if you're buying the house and you put the brand new furnace in, the banks will increase the value of the house by the value of the furnace. But within 6 months or a year, it really does not add any value to that property at all.
So for all intents and purposes, putting a new furnace in a single-family home does zero for the value of that house, realistically.
Exactly. Especially as, you know, if it's your own personal residence, absolutely put it in because it's going to lower your heating costs. But if there are tenants that are living in there, you don't care unless the costs are so, you know, out of control that no tenant wants to live there. But you know, or the anyways, when you replace the furnace in an apartment building, most apartment buildings are heated by one individual furnace, and it's usually a hot water heating system. So you're actually including the heat costs in the rent. You charge a little bit higher rent, and a portion of that rent goes towards your expense for the heating bill. You change that furnace out, and those are expensive furnaces. So an example there that you see that brand new furnace on the right, that's $15,000, that little box. But that little box reduced our heating expenses by $5,000 in a real situation. So it says $12,000 for that furnace, sorry. But that $4,000 or $5,000 reduction in our expenses improves our cash flow. So it's more money in our pocket on a monthly basis, and it also increases the overall value of the property by over $60,000 because our expenses are lower now.
Okay, so just this question's come up a couple of times. I've seen that, and just very briefly, Ken, why does either a reduction in costs or an increase in cash flow increase the value of the property so exponentially? How does a $5,000 reduction in heating costs mean a $61,000 increase in value? Just the quick calculation.
Yeah, I don't even think that I can give you a really brief explanation, but the calculation is value equals your net operating income divided by your cap rate. And the cap rate is just a value that's determined from comparable sales in the marketplace. And the net operating income is the difference between your gross operating income and your expenses. So if you're able to increase your income and reduce your expenses, that means your net operating income is going to increase in size. Therefore, the value is going to increase. It's a straight math equation.
All right, very good. Well, is there like a rule of thumb for like every dollar in increased cash flow equals, let's say, $7 in increased value? I heard different things.
Yeah. Well, if you take if you take $1,000 and divide that by 7%, that being your cap rate, that's going to give you an increase in value. So that's basically what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. So just for ease of understanding, in that case, if the cap rate were 7%, and you increase your cash flow by 1,000, well, whatever. I mean, it would be $1 increase in cash flow equals $7 increase in value in that particular case. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So you're the one slowing things down here, Dave.
A spreadsheet. Oh, goody.
All right. So, we're talking about value here. So, and we're going to compare two different properties. A 12-unit building for $1 million, $150,000 down. So 15% is your down payment. Or you can buy two single-family homes with $75,000 down each. So that's where I came up with the comparable here. So, if somebody's got $150,000, which is better for them to invest in, a 12-unit building or two single-family homes? Well, the rent per unit in a 12-unit building is only going to be $900 compared to $1,600 per home. So per unit, it looks like the single-family homes are better. But when you add up all of the gross monthly rent, you can see it, the 12-unit building far outperforms the 2 single-family homes, your annual rents. But then when you look at the monthly net rent after all expenses, now these are just estimates, but typically you're going to be looking at $100 per door or $1,200 a month for the 12-unit compared to $400 a month, $200 each for your single-family homes if you can get them to cash flow at all. That's a big if. Your annual net rents then, $14,400 compared to $4,800. So you can just see on an annual basis it makes more sense to own the 12-unit building. And then if both properties increase, or if you increase the rents rather at the same percentage, if you're allowed to go up by 5%, then you're able to get a bigger return on your investment with the multi-unit building because you've got larger rent pool to draw from. So $720 compared to $240 is a $480 difference. That $240, again, talking about value of the building, that $240 increased rental income does not increase the value of the property because it's a single-family home. But increasing the rents by $720 a month can increase the value of your property by over $11,000 because the value is determined by the cash flow.
All right. So again, we'll probably get a few questions about that, but basically, in a nutshell, what Ken has done is said, okay, if we've got $150,000 to invest, we can either buy, put $75,000 down per house for 2 single-family homes, or we could get into one 12-unit apartment building, and we're comparing financially, in that case, apples to apples. Property-wise, it's apples to oranges, but the same amount of money, and where do you get the biggest bang for your buck?
Exactly. So then if you look at what happens when the debt gets paid down to zero, or if you're able to pay the debts off on both properties, then the cash flow is going to increase accordingly, and you're going to have a $6,000 monthly net rent compared to $2,800. So you need you need another 3 homes to be able to be equal to that 12-unit building. And if you've got the cash to buy another 3 homes, you might as well buy another 12-unit apartment building. So it just, I hope that these values are just driving home to people the, how, the impact of owning a 12-unit building compared to 2 single-family homes, for lack of a better description. Exactly. Anything you want to add there, Dave?
All right, let's go on to the next.
Okay.
So let's take a look at the next slide, buddy.
Yeah, so how does this affect the profit centers? We're just going to look at 6 of the profit centers here, and I very quickly just went through what the purchase price, the down payment, the land values, building value, etc., and the mortgage payments. So on a cash flow basis, we looked at that already. There's a net difference of $9,600 positive cash flow into your pocket. Appreciation at 3%. If both properties appreciate at the same rate of 3%, you're going to see a growth of $30,000 for the apartment building compared to $22,000 for the houses, simply because you were able to buy more property with your the same down payment. The principal pay down is a little bit greater simply because you've got a larger mortgage with the apartment building. And the depreciation is a big one, though. The depreciation, because you're got a bigger property, a bigger asset on a similar size of property as one house, with the house you have to detract the value for 2 properties. And you can only depreciate the value of the house sitting on the property. So if you take off the land value of $150,000 from a $750, you've only got $600,000 that you can depreciate, whereas with the apartment building you can depreciate $900,000. That means with the building you can reduce your taxable income by $36,000. And then leverage is another huge one, where you only need 15% down compared to the 20%. Instant equity is unknown for either. It depends on the properties out there.
Well, but it would suffice it to say that if you're buying a multifamily or apartment building like you're talking about, Ken, if you're doing it the way you show people, you're going to be finding properties that are being undermanaged, with lots of profit potential there. You talk about a 1-year turnaround period, so the potential to increase the value is so much higher in my opinion, with a multifamily because, again, if you're able to increase the value, let's say $7 in value for every $1 increase in cash flow you get, I mean, that's huge. You can't do that with a single family.
Exactly. Great segue into the next slide, actually, Dave.
Perfect.
This is is probably one of the best deals that I've ever managed to acquire. This is a building that was brought to my attention. It was 40% vacant at the time, very tired, very run down. Many people may have heard me talk about this as my butt ugly building because it was not a pretty building at all. They wanted $650,000, but based on the revenue that it was generating at the time, it was worth anywhere between $400,000, $450,000, and it needed at least $200,000 in repairs. So that's what it was when we looked at it. When we ended up, we originally had an agreement for $400,000 on it, but when we ended up, after looking at the property in more detail, we bought it for $225,000. That's a 21-unit apartment building. Okay. Now, the building is solid. It's good. It's not going to fall down. The land is the same land. So where's the value then? The value is in the management and in the tenants and in the condition of the property. So what we were able to do was take that property, and over the period of a year, we sunk a lot of money, a lot of other people's money into the property, $350,000 give or take. And when it was all said and done, the value of that property was then $950,000.
Wow.
And not one penny came out of our pocket for that because we either did vendor take-back financing or we did private financing on this at 12% interest for over a year.
Yeah, we won't get into the details of that. We don't have time.
Exactly.
But basically, you bought it for $225,000. You got investors involved, and that was with all financed. You got investors involved, put in another $350,000 to fix it up. So now you're into it for about $575,000, and that brought it up to almost $1 million in value within a year. And
exactly.
An annual cash flow of $25,000 a year with none of your own money. Pretty sweet deal.
Exactly.
Very sweet deal. Very
so another real benefit about the multi-units is the free money that's available out there. There's a lot of free money that governments have to help us investors maintain our properties because they understand and recognize the huge issue with the rental market. So this is a property that we actually one of the first properties we bought. It's an 11-unit apartment building. You can see the old roof on the left, and you can see a brand new rubberized roof on the right-hand side. The next screen shows the old brand new furnace, and we've got brand new doors and windows in the halls as well, so nice steel fire-rated doors. There was $115,000 we spent on this property, and the CMHC gave us $107,000 in a forgivable mortgage to do this, providing we maintained our rents during that 7-month time period, which we had no problem doing at all.
Beautiful.
So,
all right, so we're going to do another quick poll here, you guys, just to see, because we've been talking about this quite a bit, but I want to see what is it that's making you nervous about getting involved in investing in apartment buildings. So is it tenant or property management concerns? A lot of people are really freaked out about the idea of being a landlord. It's bad enough if you got one door that you're managing, let alone 20, 21, something like that. So tenant property management concerns, money issues, how to get financing, how to find investors, that sort of thing. The size and dollar value of the deals. So again, when we're starting to talk about $1 million or $2 million properties, that makes some people nervous, or is it something else that's got you nervous about investing in property? So let's just take a look here. We've got a few more seconds here to see, get all the votes in. Just about 70% of everybody voted. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll close that. We'll share the results with everybody, so you should be able to see that. So, wow, that's surprising. That's why I love doing these polls. Only 24%, only a quarter of the folks on the call live are primarily nervous about the tenant and property management concerns. Almost 60% are concerned about money issues. So getting financing, finding or working with investors, that qualifying for mortgages, that sort of thing, that's the biggest concern. and 12% are worried about the size and dollar value of these deals. So very, very interesting. That's good to know. Thanks, you guys, very much for participating in this. No, that's surprising. I didn't know it was going to be that skewed towards the money issues. All right. So big idea number 3. Oh, yeah, this is great. The 3 biggest mistakes most novice big deal investors make and how to avoid them. So we'll do it kind of like David Letterman does in descending order of importance. So number 3 is buying the wrong kind of building. And this is what's interesting. Either too crappy of a building or too good of a building. So talk to us a little bit about that.
All right. Well, actually, we can go to the next one. There's a few things that I try and stay away from when I look at properties.
Yeah, that would be a good one to stay away from.
Well, one of the big ones is balconies. I mean, everybody loves balconies, if they're using them themselves, but as an investor, I really try and stay away from them. They are a huge liability risk. It's amazing how stupid people become on balconies. And then there's the liability from if the balcony actually falls, deteriorates, or whatever. That's what we call a cantilevered, failed cantilever balcony there. So it actually, when it breaks or when it fails, it literally will fall like that. There's no slow failure in there. So there's balconies. Stay away from them if you have that option. The next one is purpose-built versus non-purpose. This is a very nice-looking single-family home that was originally built as a single-family home and then at some point in time was converted into a triplex. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this property, but if I have a choice, I'm going to stay away from a non-purpose built because now we have a property that's got shared plumbing, shared electrical, non-compliant fire code walls, floors, etc. You've got noise issues. It's just not as functional as a purpose-built. Yet there's a lot of really good non-purpose-built properties out there, but I see a lot of people getting into these types of properties that are not designed for the intended use, and there's lots of issues, like when you put your toaster down and the person next door is using the hairdryer and you blow the breaker in the basement unit and you have to wake the guy up in the basement to flip the breaker back on. So there's lots of issues like that. Yes, it's a real story.
Exactly.
So, the next one is elevators. Again, elevators are a great feature to provide for your tenants, especially for the elderly tenants or the handicapped tenants, but they're a huge expense. They have to be maintained annually. They have to be serviced by a licensed technician. They have to be refurbished every 20 years, and they have to be replaced every 40 years, I believe it is. So there's a huge cost to operating an elevator, and you have to ask yourself, what's the benefit to having the elevator with respect to the rents? So I focus on 2.5-story walk-ups. You don't need an elevator. If you've got somebody that can't handle the stairs very well, they live in the basement or on the first floor, and they only have half a flight of stairs to deal with then.
That makes sense. You're not a big fan of parking garages.
No. I went to school as a civil engineer, technologist. I spent a couple of years working with concrete, and this was my job, working in parking garages, doing repairs, structural repairs. And I could not, and this is 30 years ago now when I was doing this, and I could not believe the cost of these repairs back then. And it's just phenomenal the amount of money that it takes to maintain these structures. So if you can avoid these high expenses, by all means do so. Tenants are accustomed to parking outside, and again, what is the increased rent you're going to get for having a parking garage or an elevator compared to the rent that you can charge? That's just it doesn't make sense to me. Then we look at the styles of buildings. So the building on the left there is what we would call a Class B building. It's a little bit newer. It's got more. What have we got there? 5 floors. So they're going to have an elevator in there by code today. So the expenses are higher. Just a little bit classier. A Class A building, which I don't show there, is going to be lots of glass doors, multiple elevators. You go into a nice big open foyer, couches, and all that sort of stuff. The money to be made is in the Class C buildings. These are the older buildings. You can get them usually half the price of the Class B, a third of the price of the Class A, yet the rents are not that different. So if you take a look at the example here, our rent-to-cost ratio for the Class B is 6.6, Class C is 13.7. That means you could buy 2 of those buildings, the Class C buildings, and achieve twice the rents and outperform the Class B building. Is there a bit more work? Yes. Are you attracting a different clientele? Yes. But again, it's well worth the money. It's well worth the effort to get in. That's where it's a great place to start. And the Class Bs and As is a good place to aspire to, but you start with the Class Cs.
Good point.
Okay, what we got here? Buying in the wrong neighborhood or the wrong location. That's a huge issue as well. You have to realize where your rental pool is. Our rental pool is made up primarily, the bulk of it is made up in our low income and our middle income, or the low middle income. That's the bulk of our rental pool. Those people are not living in the Rockcliffe Parks, which is a very high-end part of the city of Ottawa. You don't even see an apartment building in Rockcliffe Park. That's where the Prime Minister lives. You're going to identify, where these people live, where they work, and that's where you're going to be buying those Class C buildings as well. If you try and buy in a middle-class neighborhood, you're going to be paying more for the property, and you're going to be drawing from a smaller rental pool as well. So again, I'm just trying to say, to get started, the best place to start is in your lower income pool, but that's not to say that it has to be in a neighborhood with houses like those 2. So my property there in the middle is in a low income property, but the houses in the neighborhood are well maintained. And if I bought that same property but my neighbors' houses look like these, then the tenants that I'm going to attract are going to be much poorer quality tenants. So you just have to be aware of the neighborhood, because the tenants are not only living in your building, they're living in the neighborhood. So be careful where you are looking to invest. This is the biggest mistake that I see not only new investors but even some seasoned investors make, and that's believing the seller and or the realtor and underestimating the true expenses. So
is this a personal lesson learned, this example?
Yes it is. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, Angelo's asking, he says, tell us about some of the bad deals and lessons learned. So here you go, Angelo.
Okay. This is one right here. This is a property in Cornwall, and when I bought this property, I allowed my emotions to get in and take control a little bit, because this was a beautiful looking property. It was recently renovated from top to bottom, and at the time it was going to be the jewel of our portfolio. I can't remember if it was 17 or 18 units. It was a good sized property, and I had a good relationship with the seller. I can't even remember who the realtor was. He just sort of dropped out of the picture, and I started dealing directly with the seller of the property. And she was very nice. I never did meet her husband, and which I now understand why, because he was a real piece of work. But she appeared to be very nice. She took us through all of the units except one. We could never get into this one unit. As it turns out, what happened was, there was a fire in that one unit that she failed to show us, and she was putting in all kinds of tenants just to fill the place up. So the leases weren't accurate. Tenants had moved around. Tenants had moved within the building. The leases didn't match up. We had a very bad home inspection or property inspection done on top of all that. We discovered that the seller had put on brand new flooring over top of the cheap flooring. There was actually 3 layers of linoleum flooring in the kitchen, which meant that the flooring would last about a year instead of the 10 years that it should have lasted. The inexpensive building inspection, because I cheaped out, failed to discover the huge amount of mold growing in the attic due to poor ventilation, which meant that we were going to have to spend at least $20,000 in order to have that rectified. So all this to say was that I allowed my ego, I allowed my emotions to take control of this particular property, and I was beating myself up one day on the drive home and said, okay, enough of that. Finished beating myself up. What are the lessons learned? And I've never repeated those mistakes ever again, and I share those mistakes because it's extremely important for other people to realize, what can happen even to an experienced investor.
So big lesson being never believe a seller about the condition of a property and what the numbers are.
And the realtors, and any realtors on the call, I apologize. I don't mean to slam realtors, but I am one myself. I know what you're taught, and the reality is that realtors are driven by the bottom line, which is the dollar, the commission, and you have to do your own due diligence when it's your responsibility ultimately to trust but verify.
Exactly. So let's talk about where the best deals are located, and I just want to tell everybody. It looks like we're going to be going over a little bit longer than we expected. So I apologize for that. We're going to try and keep it to 90 minutes. It's going to be longer than that. I've got a few people asking, is this being recorded? Is there going to be a recording of it? No, there isn't. Depending on the demand, we might do an encore presentation. But no, we're not going to have a replay of this right away. We might do another one in a little while. But anyhow, we're going to take a little bit longer than 90 minutes, but let's blast through it here. And again, this is, as you can tell, Ken is very, very knowledgeable about the whole topic and loves to dive deep and really get into the meat and potatoes of the whole subject. So that's one of the things we love about you, Ken. But
sorry for the detail.
It's tough when we're on a time frame, but I don't want to shut you up either.
All right, so where are the best deals located? An interesting stat is that the corridor between Windsor, Ontario, and Quebec City, approximately 70% of all rental properties in Canada are located in that corridor, which only makes sense given that's the bulk of the population for the country as well. So that was an interesting stat that I learned from a RAIN presentation or an interview one time. So you're going to go where the properties are. But there's also lots of other markets out there, smaller markets, 50,000 people, 10,000. I've got, all my properties are in smaller markets. The biggest market is 20,000. My 54 units is in an area of 6,000. And so don't shy away from those small markets as well. You just need to be aware that property management is going to be the main issue for that.
Okay, what about markets within a bigger city? So
within the cities, then, what you're going to be looking at is the lower income regions, especially if you're just getting started, because you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck in those areas. The properties are more affordable, plus simply the rental pool is the largest in that demographic. And a lot of people think, well, I don't want to rent to those people because they cause all kinds of problems. I want to rent to the middle income or the high income. Well, here's a wake-up call for you. I mean, there's good, bad people in every walk of life, and we rent to simply, all of our rentals are low income, and you just have to screen properly. And there's lots of great people there. There's also a greater number of rental properties to select from. The lower income stigma creates a lower purchase price, plus they generally aren't maintained as well, so you can get better deals there.
Yeah, so that's your C-type buildings that you were talking about earlier, right?
C or C minus, yeah. In some cases.
And then a lot of it has to do with whoever owns the property at the moment as well, so not just the location, but the actual owner.
Yeah, so that brings us to the motivated sellers. No matter where the property is located, if you have a motivated seller, I'm always looking for motivated sellers, owners that long distance management. That triplex, our first triplex that we bought, was a long distance ownership. It was a biker that showed up to show us the property because he was the manager. The grass wasn't cut. The property was being run down. Or it could be an aging owner wanting to retire. That was the case of the Bud Ugly building. It was a retired lawyer in his late 70s. Property that's depreciated will trigger tax payable, so they may be willing to sell the property at a discount to avoid having to pay back the taxes, potentially. Hands-on management is having a negative impact on the owner as well, so people just get tired. They get worn out by all the tenant issues, and they throw their hands up in the air. Maintenance gets out of control, the failing health of the owners, or just bad joint ventures. I was involved in one deal where there was 4 partners, and they got into a disagreement, got into some infighting. 2 of the partners wanted to sell. They forced a sale, and it got pretty ugly. I never did buy the property, but the price was pretty darn good. So there's always different reasons for being motivated.
All right,
So
just
then
reminding everyone, we got people, again, we were talking about if you can watch a replay of tonight's call or something like that. Again, just a reminder, at the end of the call, we are going to show you how you can get all of the slides from tonight's call, so you can have all of those handy to look at your convenience. So again, at the end of the call in a few minutes, we'll show you how to get those. And let's jump right into the top 3 ways you can get started doing your own big deal. So how to get into your own apartment building, either your first one or your next one. So again, in order of descending priority, I'll let you take over here, Ken. Number 3.
Well, they can do it just like we did and learn from the school of hard knocks and the mistakes, etc. Fortunately, we didn't make any major mistakes that cost us any major amount of money, but there's certainly money to be lost if you don't do things right. But that's one of the best ways.
That's why you jumped in and got educated pretty early on as well.
I got it exactly. When I saw the opportunity to get educated, I jumped all over that because I realized there was a lot more money to be made. It's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. And we were just doing what we thought was best at the time. And in hindsight, we made a lot of mistakes. I wish we could go back and change those, but we're happy with everything the way it's gone. And you give credit. You got to start with something, and that's usually better than nothing. So there's no better lesson learned than the one experience can give you firsthand, and I've got lots of firsthand experience, believe me.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons to any strategy. So
yeah,
some of the pros of learning on your own are, like you just said, the lessons tend to stick a lot better if you've felt them firsthand.
Oh, exactly. It's just like a child putting your hand on the stove element. Until you actually put your hand on there, you don't really believe your parents. So, so the pros are, no better lesson learned. Getting started is better than nothing. The cons to doing that, though, there's definitely some cons to it. It can take you years to achieve success. The same success that you could achieve in 5 and 6 years could take you 15, 20 years. It can also cost you thousands and thousands of dollars needlessly. You can learn by other people's mistakes. Why not? It can create unbearable stress for you and your family. I've seen, unfortunately, especially when the spouse isn't on board with what you're trying to achieve, it can create a lot of stress when things don't go smoothly. And it can really financially drain you unless you have some pretty deep pockets.
Exactly. So it's a very expensive way to learn.
Yep.
So another popular way to get involved with apartment buildings is investing with a REIT. So what is a REIT, first of all?
So a REIT is a real estate investment trust, and it's very similar to investing in mutual funds, except instead of investing in a portfolio of 20, 30, or 50 companies inside one mutual fund, what you're doing is you're investing in a portfolio of real estate properties, which could be 5, 10, 20 properties in this one fund, and you get to enjoy the benefits of all of those properties, but you also get to enjoy the rewards of any losses that you experience as well. Some of the pros of it, though, is it's truly hands-off because you're just handing your money over, but with any hands-off experience like that, you suffer because you have to hire somebody else to take care of the property, so your returns are much lower. But you're still getting decent returns today in the REIT markets. They're anywhere from 3 to 8%, depending on the market and the portfolio. The cons with investing in a REIT, though, is it is hands-off, therefore you don't have any true control of it. It's definitely in the hands of the managers. Definitely lower returns than if you were to own the property yourself. And you only receive a return on your investment based on the cash flow. You don't benefit from any of the other profit centers such as depreciation or appreciation. So there's definitely some limitations to the benefits of investing in a REIT, but it's still a good alternative if you want to invest in real estate, but you don't want to touch real estate yourself.
All right, then of course is our favorite way, which is learning how to do it yourself the right way.
Absolutely. And the obvious pros, it provides you with many more opportunities because you know what opportunity looks like now. And that's one of the biggest things going back to my Bud Ugly building, the one that I bought for $225,000. If I hadn't received the level of education that I had at that time, there's no way I would have touched that with a 20-foot pole. It's just, and that's why it was sitting there for so many years, because everybody else that looked at it walked away from it because they didn't see the opportunities that I saw with it. And that's what the education provided me. It also, you learn how to help yourself by helping others, and that's the beautiful thing about investing in real estate for myself, is that it allows me to help other people, and the more people I help, the more money I make. So by giving my investors a decent return, for example, on their investments, allows me to acquire more properties, making it a win-win situation. It also allows me to buy as many properties as I want, because I now understand how to leverage other people's money. I understand how to structure deals creatively, to be able to have the sellers help finance the properties, how to structure the deals so that it's a win-win for both sides. And the beautiful thing about it is being able to create money, like Kiyosaki talks about in his book. Remember the story where he and his friend are making the melted down toothpaste tubes and are making nickels? That story just jumped out in my head when I finished that deal on that 21-unit apartment building, because I just created over $300,000 cash out of thin air without any of my own money. And the beautiful thing about education is, you can lose an asset. I could lose my entire portfolio, heaven forbid, for whatever reason, but I'll never lose my education. And because of my education, I could replace my entire portfolio in a much shorter time than it took me to build it in the first place. And just that alone has given my wife Joanne a huge level of comfort, allowing me to take risks that she never would have been comfortable taking before.
Yeah, so I just want to ask you a question I haven't ever asked you before, Ken, and let's say worst case scenario, you did lose everything.
Yep.
You had to start all over again from scratch. You didn't have any of the investor contacts that you have right now. You didn't have any money, and somebody was putting a gun to your head and said you have to replace those 118 doors, as quickly as possible, or we're going to do you in. How fast do you think realistically you could replace your portfolio, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, well, I could probably do it within 5 years easily. I mean, I've always said that the first thing that I would do is, you can take me to any city in North America, give me $1,000 and a good suit, and I'll make the equivalent of $100,000 a year in real estate. So that's the first thing I'd have to do, is generate some cash flow so that I could do things, survive. And once I've got that, then I'd build my network and start looking for deals and start bringing joint ventures on. There's the old saying that the first million is the hardest million to make. I now understand what that means. So
that's very, very good. And that's what you're going to be showing people too. So what are the cons? The cons to learning how to do it right.
Honestly, I can't think of any. And I could be wrong, but I honestly cannot think of anything, why you wouldn't want to be educated to learn how to do this. So
that makes sense.
This is just a quick example. I bought this building before I became educated. I was a realtor, so I thought that I knew everything I needed to know in order to buy real estate. It wasn't a bad deal, but when I look back at it, you can see that's a pretty dated, pretty tired, run-down property on the left, and today we still own this property. I think it's about 9 or 10 years old now. This is the one that we got the free money on as well. And it's my little jewel. I love this property, but I could have done so much better with that property if I had the education. For example, this is my Bud Ugly building. And what happened here was bad management equals bad tenants plus high maintenance costs, which equals lower income. The lower income equals lower value, therefore an opportunity to buy at a discount. Mm-hmm. I fix up the property, I get good tenants, that equals higher income. My higher income equals higher value. More money in my pocket, as you can see from the check right here. So this check that on the screen is a check that I received when after spending a year fixing that property up and getting a conventional mortgage and paying off the debt that I had against the property. Almost $322,000 check that was paid to me. I did have to pay a little bit to some private investors, but I ended up with close to $200,000 in my pocket for that deal.
And that's how much equity did you still have in the property?
And there's still, let me do the math, there's $220,000 equity still in the property when I financed it, and there's way more than that now.
And how much cash flow are you still getting from that property?
And we're still getting $25,000 annually on that property. And it is I love that property. It's overlooking the St. Lawrence Seaway. It's in the city of Brockville. It is an older property, a bit dated, but it's very, very solid. And yeah, I'll never get rid of that property.
Well, bottom line, within a year, you've created $500,000 worth of net worth, $200,000 of which you put in your pocket, and you're still generating over $2,000 a month net positive cash flow from this one property, which you put none of your own money into. Is that correct, bottom line?
Yeah, gee, when you summarize it like that, that's a pretty good deal, isn't it? But yeah, that's true. That's what it is. I love it.
Exactly. Well, I don't blame you. So again, touched on this, and we're going to show you how to get all of the slides from all of the details that Ken talked about here. And here's the challenge, though. You can tell that Ken definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to investing in big deals in apartment buildings here in Canada. That's the challenge, though. It's getting good, solid Canadian training on how to invest in apartment buildings here in our home and native land. And that's why Ken and I have created this brand new program we're very, very excited about, Apartment Building Wealth Generation. And this is definitely for Canadians, whether you're a brand new beginner just getting started or a seasoned pro who wants to learn some of Ken's tips and tricks on how to do it even more effectively. That's what this entire program is about. So here's what you're going to be getting in a nutshell, your $1 million portfolio blueprint. So the overall objective of this program is to give you all the knowledge, skills, and tools you need to buy your first or your next apartment building and fast track your path to that life-changing wealth and cash flow that we're talking about. So again, we saw that people are really interested in generating cash flow for multifamily or apartment building investing. They're also very, very interested in generating wealth. Ken has showed you how he's done that himself, how he continues to do that. So the very first part of this is your $1 million blueprint, $1 million portfolio blueprint. So Ken's going to show you a step-by-step blueprint to creating at least $1 million in net worth and $10,000 a month in net cash flow, all in 10 years or less. So there's no more worries about retirement, because when you follow this simple plan, your financial security is virtually assured. And again, you've seen this in Ken's own example. You've seen how he did that and more in less than 8 years, and if he had to do it all over again, he could do it in far less than 5 as well. So that's part of the whole thing. Boom or bust buildings. So you're going to discover the top 3 kinds of apartment buildings that you're going to have to focus on in order to make the most money, the most cash flow, with the least amount of headaches and property maintenance. And not only that, but Ken's going to show you what kind of apartment buildings to avoid at all costs. We touched on some of the details here tonight. He's going to dive in and really go deep ditch into this whole topic in the program. Why big is beautiful. So again, you can tell that Ken is a very analytical guy. He definitely knows his numbers. He's going to be showing you step-by-step, in-depth, how financially it makes so much more sense to be investing in apartment buildings rather than just single-family homes. And so much more room to lower your expenses, increase your profits and the values of the properties, and why the banks love financing apartment buildings, and how quite often it's actually easier to get money for a big deal than it is for a small deal. Just like Ken himself, he can get financing to go buy a 21-unit apartment building, but has a hard time getting financing to buy his own home. Crunching the numbers for fun and profit. Now, Ken, I know you love this thing. Analyzing stuff is your favorite thing, so the idea of analyzing numbers on deals may not sound like a lot of fun for you unless you're super analytical like Ken is, but what I do like about this, Ken has created a way for you to do it quickly, easily, and relatively painlessly. So if you're like me, that's a big yay for that. So this is a way for you to create the profits and the cash flow and find the hidden pockets of profit potential in buildings, and that definitely is a lot of fun. Then it's also going to be about finding the art of making outstanding offers. So if there's one thing that I know, Ken, you're very, very good at, it's making offers, tying up deals, and negotiating phenomenal deals for yourself that are actually win-win for you and the seller, that accomplish everybody's goals but get you the best possible deals. So you're going to be showing people how to do that and a heck of a lot more in this program. So the first part of this whole program is a 7-week live web training program. So every week for 7 weeks, you're going to be having live training with Ken, and this is from the comfort of your home over the computer. So just like we're doing tonight, this is a live web training class, but in a much smaller group setting. So you got an opportunity to get all your questions answered right on the spot. You can get on the headphones and open up and talk to Ken right over the class. There's no need to spend money traveling to classes or time or hotels or anything like that. So that's a huge convenience factor. It's a virtual classroom experience. And like I said, you can interact with Ken and the other students via the webinar. So week number 1 is getting started. So Ken's going to show you his 10 years to $1 million step-by-step plan that you can use to get that $10,000 in cash flow, $1 million in net worth in 10 years or less. Also going to be showing you in week number 2 the perfect properties to buy. So the real deals versus the dogs. What kind of properties to focus on and which ones to avoid like the plague. So we touched on that a little bit today. We're going to go much more in depth on that in the actual class as well. Week number 3, location, location, location. Again, going in depth, looking at demographics, what kind of cities you should focus on, what areas of the country you should focus on, what areas of cities that you should be looking on. So it's not just what kind of property, it's where to find those best deals for yourself as well. Week number 4, putting it all together to actually buy your first apartment building. So taking everything that you've learned, all the keys to success, and making this happen. So you by this time you understand the why, the what, and the where of apartment building buying. Now it's time to put it all together with the how. How much can I afford? Looking at different sized buildings for different sized budgets. We'll also be touching on how to attract money partners for your deals. We're going to look at what's available, understand what kind of buildings we want, where we want to get them, and now we're going to learn how to find those. Then Ken's favorite part, deal analysis. Again, we're going to learn the ABCs of how to see if we got a really good deal or a dog deal, and what we need to do to turn those dog deals into good deals. And just let me shrink this here. And then Ken's, we're going to also have an overview of the offer making process, including the most important subject to clauses that you must have in your contracts for sure. All right, and then identifying red flags quickly. Like Ken was showing here, you've never seen a property on the market where the seller's numbers are real, and that's not always by design. Sometimes it's by accident, but it's very rarely the case where the information that the seller is giving you is what reality really is. So how to spot those red flags and not get burned by them. Week number 5, this is very, very cool. A real deal in real time. So going in depth and analyzing an actual property that's on the market. So this is where Ken's going to be coming up with a property that's available on the market, going through it step by step to see what the numbers are, what they need to be to make it a good deal, and what his strategies would be to actually negotiate this particular deal. Week number 6, making offers. So again, going through step by step how to make the best offers, what subject to clauses you need to do that. You'll also understand the psychology behind the winning negotiations, where you want to be able to get what you want and still have it so the seller doesn't feel like they're getting ripped off. So Ken's going to compare and contrast how most investors make their offers typically, and how they're taught by other courses and all those different steps involved. Then he's going to go over his offer-making strategy, which he's come up with over the years through his own direct experience. And the beautiful thing is, the way Ken does it, he's able to tie up the properties in the blink of an eye while other investors are still putzing around, analyzing numbers, crunching numbers, Ken's got the deal tied up, and he's renegotiating. He's getting the best deal possible. He's going to walk you exactly through that. Then he's also going to be showing you exactly why it's all about relationships. And this is what Ken does differently than a lot of other investors. He really finds out why the seller is selling the property, what they need to get out of it to make it a win-win deal for them as well, and what their needs are. All right, and then for week number 7, last but not least, most definitely, you've got the deal, you've got the apartment building, now what? So again, this was one of the big concerns a lot of people had, is how to take care of the property management, what to do with the tenants and the maintenance on the property, and this is what's going to be covered in week 7. You're going to be learning how to do it either yourself if you want to manage your own properties, or hiring that out to a professional property management company, in which case you're going to have to really learn how to manage the managers. So you learn what you should expect to pay, what you need to be getting from your property management company, how to find a good one. And then what I really like about this particular class, Ken, is you're going to be walking people through the transition year. So talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that transition year.
Well, actually, it was interesting that people, most people were concerned about the financing aspect of getting into this, and only about 25%, I think, were concerned about the management. In reality, people underestimate the work that's involved in managing a property and the value that managing a property brings. So when I'm looking for good deals, I'm looking for deals that are mismanaged, and that's so important, but it's so often it's overlooked. And the beautiful thing about this is that we've got a lot of experience managing properties. We have a management company where we manage not only ours, we manage condo buildings, we manage other people's apartment buildings. We have a team of property managers here, so we've got a lot of experience to bring to the table for everybody.
But talk to me about that transition year, the first year that you own the property.
Yeah. So the reality is, whenever you buy a property, it's never what you think that you're going to be buying. It's always something different. Sometimes it's better. More often, it doesn't meet your expectations. So what you have to do is you have to work with that property to bring it up to your expectations. And that transition generally takes, what we've discovered, is at least a year to go through, because you may have bought a 12-unit building and you may have to change out 3 or 4 of the tenants. Well, you can't just evict everybody in the first week of ownership. It takes time to evict them, and maybe you don't want to evict them all at once because it affects your cash flow. So everything takes time. Maintenance takes time. The repairs take time. The transition of the tenants takes time. So it's
all about creating that plan for that first year to take the property from where it is to where you want it to be. Not only to make your property management issues a lot easier, but also to increase your cash flow, and like you did with your Butt Ugly building, just turn that sucker around and make it just an amazingly valuable asset.
Absolutely. We do that with every building we buy, and even the properties that we manage for other people, we do it for them.
Exactly. So it's creating that one-year transition plan that's so valuable. So the value of this 7-week program is easily $19.95. There are other programs out there that cost a lot more, but we'll put a value of $19.95 on the program. That's just one part of this whole program. You're also going to get our student-only website, 24/7 access to this. So that means that if you're not able to make one of the live classes, that's not a problem. On this student-only website, we're going to be within 24 hours of the live class. We're going to be putting the recording of the class up there so you can watch the video at your convenience on your computer from your home or wherever you might be. You can watch the class at your convenience. Plus, we're going to take out the audio part as well, make that into an MP3 file so you can upload that onto your smartphone or listen to it in your car. Whatever you like to do, you can listen to the audio separately as well. You'll have access to all the handouts, the slides, the different assignments, all of the materials. All of the resources will be on this members-only, student-only website. It's your one-stop shop, and that's got a value of at least $6.99 as well. We've got some accelerators for you as well. So again, Ken's favorite thing is analyzing deals, so he's created a very, very complete property profits calculator, or a deal analyzer is another word for this. This is something that Ken has designed himself, but he had you had a computer programmer help you with this, right? Yeah,
Oh,
a
for
techie
sure.
helped this design it for non-techies. So what I love about this calculator, and I have to admit I don't love it as much as Ken does because that's his thing, but I do appreciate, even though I don't give you the kudos you deserve, I do appreciate how simple you've made this, because you can plunk in the simple numbers that you're going to be getting to analyze the deal, plunk them into this calculator, and it creates a score for you. Not only that, but it highlights problem areas. So I think you've got little green lights or red lights that pop up,
Yep.
showing you where the things are good or where you need to be paying attention to things. So it makes it very, very user-friendly. Just allows you to save hours and hours of time versus trying to figure it out all on your own. And this is what you use, Ken, to be able to create really good deals where it might be a dog before. So huge, huge value there, and also just saving yourself from potentially making some really bad decisions. So anything quick that you want to mention about the property analyzer? And I know you can go on wax
Yeah, no, I mean,
on about this for a long time.
I live by that analyzer. It has saved me thousands of dollars and made me thousands of dollars.
No, I'd say hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hundreds, yeah.
Yeah, when you're
Absolutely.
talking about big deals like this.
Yeah.
Speaking of big deals, something that is hugely valuable that we're going to be including with this is Ken's own legal library. So what does that mean? That means that Ken has done numerous deals, as you've seen. So he's got contracts, he's got paperwork, he's got leases, he's got joint venture agreements, he's got all of these different legal documents that he has spent thousands and thousands of dollars on, plus put his own twist on these things. These are going to be provided to you as well. So why reinvent the wheel? This will save you tons of time and money. So even if you don't live in Ontario and you need to take this to your own lawyer, it's going to save you tons of time and money, because your lawyer doesn't have to start from scratch. You can use these documents as a template to create your paperwork. So either way, it's a way for you to look over Ken's shoulder, see how his real deals have gone. So not only are they the templates, but Ken's going to be including some of the contracts already filled out for deals that he's done, highlighted, so you can see exactly what he did through those deals. So that's easily an $1,197 value. I'd say it's a lot more than that, especially if you've seen what legal bills cost these days to get contracts put together. Anything you want to say about that quickly, Ken?
No, I mean, it's basically learning how to work with the system and working with the realtors as well, so that they understand the contracts.
Excellent. And talking about property management, your lovely wife Joanne has put together a very, very complete manual, a how-to manual on how to manage your own properties or manage the management if you're going to be hiring outside property managers to help you out with your properties. So that's easily a $395 value. That's going to be included there as accelerator number 3 for this program. Big deal here is a checklist. So Ken has created a deal or dog property checklist. So again, you've got the analyzer, but sometimes you want to do something quick and easy just to see if something's worth looking into even more. That's why Ken has created this checklist, so you can take a quick look at a deal and just see whether it's even worth pursuing more or less, or it's time just to move on and take a look at the next one. So that's included as well, $199 value. A roadmap to the whole apartment building purchase process. So this is a big 30,000-foot overview. As you can tell, there are a lot of steps involved in doing this properly. It might be easy to miss a step if you don't have a roadmap to follow. So this is that 30,000-foot perspective, so you can make sure that you're doing everything in the right order at the right time, so that you'll maximize your profits and minimize any expenses that you have. Again, that's another $199 value. So again, we've got lots and lots that's included with this program. The live program, 7-week live web training program, the website access for our students 24/7, so if you can't make a live class, you can watch the replay within 24 hours there and get access to everything right there. The Ken's Analyzer, the Property Profits Calculator, and the software, Ken's Legal Library, the roadmap, the checklist, the property management manual, all of this put together, the total value is $5,483. Now, you might be thinking that's a lot of money, and yes, that is a significant investment. But Ken, talk to us a little bit about the training that you've taken in the past, the equivalent of what we're offering you here, and talk to us a little bit about the value of that and what the investment was.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome value, really. I mean, we spent, as I said, over $40,000 to get this type of education, and it didn't include near what we are including in this package now. Didn't have any of the support that we're offering either.
So, again, and you were working with what is now, what would it be, Rich Dad Education now?
It's actually, it has morphed into the Rich Dad Education. I actually worked for the company for almost a year after it took over the company. So I took the courses, fantastic courses, great value, highly recommend them to anybody, but they are a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of travel. And after we finished the courses, I ended up working as a mentor for them for a couple of years as well. So I know the courses quite well.
Yeah, so it was $40,000 well invested in your case, and if you can do it, we always highly recommend the folks from Rich Dad Education. Any training you can get is great, and those guys have been around for years and years and years. So if you can do it, most definitely go for it. What we're offering is a lot less. Your investment for this program is only $24.97. And if you'd like to find out more about that and get enrolled, please go to apartmentwealthgeneration.com. Again, that's apartmentwealthgeneration.com. So we've got some big additional bonuses just to kind of make this opportunity an absolute no-brainer for you. So here's some of the bonuses that we're going to be including. First thing is we're going to put the whole program, once we've completed the whole thing, on a USB flash drive. So that means all of the videos are going to be on this. All of the audio files are going to be on that, so you can easily download this onto your smartphone or listen to it in the car. All of your documents and calculators are going to be in one spot, all in one convenient place, and you don't have to worry about having an internet access or internet connection to get all of this. You're going to have it all delivered to you on a super convenient USB flash drive, and that's at least a $697 value. That's included as part of the program. Again, apartmentwealthgeneration.com, or you can call, if you prefer to talk to a live person, you can call Shannon at toll-free 1-866-680-3842. That's Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 p.m. Pacific, if you prefer to talk to somebody live. So big additional bonus number 2. Now, this is huge. We've got an extra bonus for the fast action takers. So unlimited email support. Unlimited email support. So what does that mean? This is a direct link right to Ken. So we're going to create a specific email address just for students of this program. Ken is the one that's going to be seeing the emails. Ken is the one that's going to be answering the emails. And you're going to have unlimited email support for up to 5 years. Now, this is absolutely amazing. I mean, with my rent-to-own course, my students have email support for a year, and that's fantastic because hardly anybody gives email support at all. But because this is a long-term strategy, we believe in giving long-term support. So up to 5 years. You've got 24/7 access. Anytime you've got a question, email it to Ken. He's not going to answer 24/7, but you will get your answers quickly within 24 to 48 hours right from Ken. And again, this is an extra for fast action takers. So for the first 15 students to enroll today, you get unlimited email support for 5 years. Otherwise, if you're not one of the first 15, it's still awesome. You get 2 years of unlimited email support, and that's very, very easily a $19.97 value. Big additional bonus number 3, and again, another extra for our fast action takers, is one-on-one coaching call with Ken, or if you prefer with myself, 1 per year for up to 5 years. So this is personal one-on-one coaching, looking at you, your specific situation, what you want to do, what your goals are, what your time frame is, what your specific challenges might be, and working with you one-on-one. So again, get your answers fast right from the source, right from Ken, or if you prefer, from myself. And for the first 15 people to enroll, you're going to get one of these per year for 5 years. If you're not one of the first 15, you get 2 years worth, which is still phenomenal. So again, take action. Go to apartmentwealthgeneration.com to find out all about that. That's very easily a $2,500 value. This is just the frosting on the cake, but this is only available for 12 people who RSVP right away. And this is a free ticket to our upcoming Apartment Building Wealth Workshop Live. So this is November 29th to December 1st of this year in or around Ottawa, Ontario. And this is going to be in Ken's backyard. So we're going to go out there and actually not only learn in the classroom, reinforce what we've learned in the course, learn some great new things, especially about working with investors, about the financing, all that kind of great stuff. We're also, oops, getting too carried away there. We're also going to be getting on a bus and actually doing a live tour of some actual properties that are available. So we're going to analyze the properties. We're going to see what it needs to happen to make them a really good deal. And in some cases, depending on your situation, you might actually want to make offers on one of these properties. So this is taking it from the classroom to the real world. Anything you want to add about the Apartment Building Wealth Workshop, Ken?
Well, I've done this a couple times in the past, and it's always been a blast for the students. They've really enjoyed that, just to actually stand there on a property and look at a real property and look at it through my eyes as to what I'm looking at, the concerns and issues, has been of great value to the students in the past.
Exactly. So this is like having you right there, holding their hand, walking through the entire process. And instead of it being over a computer or, textbook or something like that, we're actually live and out in the field doing this with real deals, real sellers, real estate agents, the whole bit. So phenomenal value in attending this workshop. Again, this is limited to the first 12 people who RSVP. We already have several spots taken with Ken's year-long mentoring students. And we have some spots open as well for guests. So this is, you can RSVP a ticket for free with a fully refunded seat deposit. You can find out all about that at apartmentwealthgeneration.com. Okay, so again, just briefly going through the whole thing. You get the live 7-week training program, the website, the property profits calculator, all of Ken's forms, contracts, and paperwork, the roadmap, the checklist, the property management manual. Bonus is the recording of the events, unlimited email support for up to 5 years, one-on-one coaching calls for up to 5 years if you're one of the first 15 to enroll, and a complimentary ticket to the live workshop at the end of November, beginning of December in Ottawa. That brings the total value up to $14,674. Again, your investment is only $24.97 when you go to apartmentwealthgeneration.com. So Ken, let's take a look at some of the testimonials that have come in from some of your successful students in the past. So here's one from Martin Drecker. I find Ken to be outstanding. His information is first rate. On top of that, Ken's a speaker that's very down to earth, a real lack of pretentiousness. I think you can tell that already from our webinar tonight. Doesn't hide behind a facade, try to hype himself up or appear to be perfect. It's because honesty and integrity are his two highest business values. So very, very nice words there. From Kathy Long, I believe Kathy's in Calgary, isn't she? Or is she
Edmonton.
Okay. Ken gave me the opportunity to broaden my goals and options in real estate. Now, Kathy is already a very successful real estate investor. I provided personal analysis of my situation, out-of-the-box thinking solutions in order to for me to move closer to my financial goals. Ken's easygoing personality and experience was appreciated. Here's a big one here. This is from your friend Mervyn Hebert, who's actually a doctor, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Ken?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so through the process with Ken, I was prepared with the knowledge and confidence to take on the purchase of a 12-unit apartment building in a neighboring province. It was Ken's detailed and systematized approach to analyzing properties that led me to negotiate the purchase of this apartment, valued at the time of almost $1 million, with none of my own money. His expert guidance taught me how to take 100% ownership of this $1 million property that continues to cash flow, be fully occupied, and managed by an expert property management team. Not only that, but he's given the key advice that saved me over $16,000 of then unforeseen costs at closing through carefully worded clauses in the purchase contract. That alone was worth several times what I paid for his coaching. There's a little picture of the apartment building that he purchased below as well. Here's another one of my favorite testimonials for you, Ken. Ken was my mentor when I first started investing in real estate and has since become a very good friend. With Ken's teaching, guidance, support, knowledge, I was able to build a real estate portfolio of 92 doors in less than 5 years. And that's Amin Abdul Fattah, an English teacher, if I'm not mistaken.
No, not quite.
Okay, well, he's got a professor he's got something of English in there.
Engineering.
There you go. He's engineering.
Yeah.
How much I know. I took psychology in college. You can tell that. So again, apartmentwealthgeneration.com. If you prefer to talk to a live person, you can call Shannon anytime, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 Pacific, 866-680-3842. So again, just going over everything there. Total value, $14,674. Your investment, only $24.97. And here's what we want to do. Because we're launching this program right now, we want to give you an even better opportunity, and we want to get this off with a bang. And just to let you know, we're going to be limiting this training program to a maximum of 30 students. It's going to be small and intimate. That way you get a lot of one-on-one attention with Ken. And to get this kicked off properly, we're going to give you a very, very special investment opportunity of just $9.97. So if you're currently one of Ken's students, or you've been one of Ken's students in the past, and that includes the Real Estate Peak Performers Group that we ran for a couple of years, any of Ken's students that have been part of his programs in the last few years as well, or if you're a current Canadian Profits member or a Creative Profits Club member, you can get this entire program for an investment of just $9.97. And there's also a 3-pay option available as well. Now, if you're not a member or you're not a student of Ken's, you can get involved for just $14.97, and we have a 3-pay option there available as well for that. If you'd like to take advantage of the $9.97 value program, you can do that if you're not a member or not a student. However, you'll be automatically become one of our gold members. You can find out all about that, how that works, at apartmentwealthgeneration.com. And of course, we want to take away all of the risk off your shoulders, put it firmly on our own shoulders. So I've known Ken for years. I've worked together with him for years. Not only that, but I've seen how his students have accomplished amazing things from his teaching. So I'm completely confident that this program will over-deliver on everything that we've talked about today, but you don't know that for sure. So that's why we've got this way for you to try it absolutely risk-free, and that's with our Gotta Love This Training guarantee. So this is a 7-week program, and you have until the end of the 4th web class, or in other words, the end of the 4th week, to try the program out to really decide if this is for you. If you decide it's not for you, just let us know before the 5th class begins, and we'll give you a full refund, 100% of your investment, and there's no reason needed. So it doesn't get any more risk-free than that. You can get involved at apartmentwealthgeneration.com. And just to show you what that website looks like, let's see if this works. Ken, are you able to see the screen?
I am.
All right. So if you go to
It's gone.
apartmentwealthgeneration.com, this is the website that you're going to see. It talks all about the program. And if you scroll down to the bottom, we've got the spot for you to get enrolled. This is a secure online enrollment. So if you choose option A as one of Ken's students or a Canadian Profits member, that'll take you to an online form here, a secure online form to get enrolled. Very, very basic, just your contact information, billing information, all that kind of stuff. It's got the price there. You can choose the 1 payment or the 3 payment option as well. And you can also take advantage of this and RSVP for the Apartment Building Wealth Workshop, the 3-day event. You can click there and RSVP for that, and we even have an option there if you'd like to bring a guest. So that's all available right there, and that's for the members pricing there. If you're not a member, if you prefer not to become a member or what have you, you've got this other option here, and again, the same idea. You can either do one payment or 3 payments, and you have the option to reserve your spot at the 3-day workshop in Ottawa as well. And again, just a reminder that that workshop is limited to 12 primaries because we already have several of the seats spoken for with Ken's current students. So that's what the opportunity is. Again, apartmentwealthgeneration.com. And like I promised you at the beginning of the call, if you'd like to get a free copy of all of the slides from tonight's presentation, simply fill out the short survey that's going to be emailed to you after the call, and give us your permission to use your comments if we so desire. So within about an hour of the end of this call, you're going to be getting an email from, I believe, GoToWebinar, and have a link there to fill out a survey. Just go ahead, click on the link, fill out the survey, let us know what you like about the call tonight, what you liked, what you'd like to see improved, and we'll get you a copy of all of the slides within 24 to 48 hours. Also, just a reminder, we had lots and lots of questions come in. We didn't have a chance to answer very many of them because we had so much to cover, but all of those questions will get addressed within the next few days as well. Ken, any last words that you'd like to add?
I'm very passionate about teaching this information. I love being with people and helping them achieve their goals, and I really look forward to working with as many people that sign up. Looking forward to it. Excited.
All right, so we've got a few questions here that came in. So what if you are past Rich Dad student? No, I'm sorry, there's no discount for that. We're not part of that same organization. How will we know if we're one of the first 15 or 12 people? Well, as long as that option is still up, you'll know that you're one of the 15 or 12 people. Otherwise, we'll take it down and let folks know. What do we got? If not interested in 3-day trip, can you give me a better deal? No. That's a bonus there. Will this be replayed? I'm very interested, but my spouse could not attend today. We make decisions together. No, we're not replaying this. We may do an encore presentation, but bottom line is that you can take advantage of this and try it out risk-free. If you change your mind, we get it, and no problem there. You can ask for a request here. Where do we go? Would the discount still be available during the replay? Again, no replay is going to be happening. We might do an encore, but right now we don't have plans for a replay. All right, very good. So I want to thank everybody very much for being on the call tonight. Again, apartmentwealthgeneration.com. Ken, thank you very much for sharing your wealth and your wisdom, wealth of wisdom on the call tonight. It's always a blast, and I'm really, really looking forward to working with you on this. Not only the live web classes, but going out to visit you and your stomping grounds in Ontario and seeing some real big deals and learning firsthand from you.
Well, I'm really looking forward to working with you again, Dave. I enjoyed it in the past, and it's always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.